think it's time to get going. Hey everybody, as usual, sorry about any background noise. As usual, it's it's school time. I can't really get to these on the weekends like I used to. So it's Tuesday. I know it's like 3 days late, but so far it's been coming out every Tuesday, so there you go. Anyways, welcome to Evidence-Based Audio Engineering. This is number 167, and this is for the glory of Lufs. I know I've been doing a lot of guitar-related stuff lately, and I'm sorry about that. But, you know, the old forum wars and things, and where things really seem to get discussed, and that bleeding edge around the myths and reality seems so much more to have shifted to these the musician side of things. And I wonder if that's a lot to do with the democratization of the recording process. You know, anybody can afford to make an album. And you know the old joke, right? Everybody's like, the best thing about digital is that anybody can afford to make an album. And the worst thing about digital is that anybody can afford to make an album. That's the age we live in. And, you know, we talk a lot on here about what happened to the old alleged gurus and where they are or aren't anymore. I mean, when's the last time maybe saw Mixer Man? Whatever. But, you know, I see a lot of this in the guitar side of things, and it's not all that different. In some cases, it's exactly the same as the types of claims and the lack of actual testing or lack of actual evidence that you'd find in the pro audio forum side of things. So, one of the fights I'm watching lately is the Iridium versus the Simplifier. And I keep seeing all these people talking about Strymon or whatever these pedals. It's just, you know, if we took an alien who landed here in the 80s and brought him to 2022, and you got to see that everybody had piles of pedals sitting on their pedal boards, I don't know what they would think. I mean, we are so backwards. You know, a long time people have been talking about how guitar players are always trying to get some old 1950s piece of crap Strat or whatever that won't stay in tune, noisy as all hell. You know, but they look backwards, and it's the fallacious argument from antiquity. But that's the way it is. So we're still talking about these stupid pedals and this Strymon thing. And okay, Sweetwater. I went to search this stuff, and the page it brings me to is like this weird ad page with so many letters in it I can't even share it with somebody. So, but luckily I can get down here and take a look at the actual whatever it is. So $400. Looks like it has some kind of it's like an amp simulator, like today's Sans amp or whatever. I didn't really even understand what it was these guys were fighting about. It's like a Sans amp, you know. It's like a guitar amp in a little box that you can record direct with or go straight to a PA with, and I'm sure it's fine. So the ad says, pack the pedals, leave the mic and amp. The pedal size Strymon Iridium gives you the tube staging, tone stack, and a touch response of 3 iconic amplifiers, each with 3 corresponding cabinet choices, all in a line level stereo output. Its analog front end feeds a powerful 2-stage DSP processor. Okay, I mean, you guys, you know what this is. This is, or what this could be, is just a box with some IRs in it, right? And then whatever the front end is, and who knows what they mean by analog front end? Is that the entire, like, the amp sounds are coming from an analog front end, or is that actual DSP there as well? And, you know, like I always say, it doesn't, just because something says analog doesn't mean it's better. It might be worse. But these are these things. This isn't that bad, though. $400. I see these guys buying crazy things, so this isn't so bad. And it looks like it even has like expression pedal input, so maybe it's for like the gain or something. It looks like it has a bunch of different sounds. Looks cool. And but it's coming from these hype factories, and most of the hype factories are who are talking about these things. And I really think this is yet another case where you could take a, your Helix or Fractal or Positive Grid or whatever, and ABX these things, and the guy wouldn't be able to pick which one's which if you tried hard enough. Let me look at what this simplifier is. We talked about this before on the show, and it looked, I think it's the same sort of thing, and it's actually $100 cheaper. Let's see, what's the difference here? And it had a bunch of like really cool DI options on it. I remember that. It's a lot of ins and outs. So they call it a simplifier, and kind of is to me. I'm not sure. There's an effects loop. So really, if you're one of those knuckleheads who really doesn't want to use a multi-effects DSP thing, this is probably pretty cool. But again, I can't imagine that you couldn't get this exact same sound out of any of these multi-effects units. Maybe some of them are too crappy for it, and maybe it has something weird and special, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. Looks like this one has a couple different, is this the cabinets? No, here's the cabinets. So you can choose between these different mic positions and things. Who knows how they're doing this? Probably just some filters. These are cool, but are they really... Is this something you can't get from your DSP device? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And who knows? This, the other one at least was saying it had DSP in there. Now, what is in here? Let's see if it shows. So it just says modeling preamp, analog digital. It just says analog. So maybe this is all analog. But again, I don't care. Totally analog signal path, no latency, no aliasing. Now, this is kind of like when the old joke about the tuner car, with the big glass pack on it and a bunch of stickers and the pointless spoilers and wings and things all over the car. The one argument they could have with the muscle car guy, because the muscle cars are going to beat the crap out of these things, was that they get better gas mileage, and it's true. And this seems like, these guys picked the two things they could actually win on: no latency and no aliasing. Latency on dedicated DSP, I don't really give a crap about. But aliasing, that's kind of a biggie. Hey, Woody, man, the Boss GT1000, that's one of the ones everybody's looking at right now. Flames are faster, exactly. Yeah, I remember that you could calculate your horsepower by what kind of stickers you had on the side, and just add the potential horsepower gains of each sticker you had, the product that it represented, and then you have the 3-second Honda CRX. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about the Boss GT1000, and there are some fanatics. Oh man, that's killer that you got those. One of the guys from Boss actually came on a thread that I was on, and he said some things that made me think, this is kind of how Boss always is. They're big enough that they don't necessarily listen, but they did explain kind of why they weren't listening, which is good. But the ease of the way it looked, way people could move their blocks around a little bit more intuitively than on the Helixes and some of the other ones, and especially for Woody here. I know he owned the Fractal one, the Axifex, I think, and that thing, look, for people like me, I love it, but if you want to do something on the fly, that interface seemed like pure pain, whereas all the videos I've seen on the Boss GT1000, man, the guys were just flying through the different sounds and getting exactly where they wanted to get to. I can kind of do that with the Helix now, but not really. The Boss looked a lot easier. And I don't know. They had what's the new one, the GX100 or whatever. It was like a stripped down version of that. I'm kind of looking at that for some things here, but it's gonna be hard to compete with the Pod Go when you're down at that level. But for the GT1000, the people who are gonna buy it probably aren't gonna buy something else. Like there's a definite sound to the Boss stuff, and they worked pretty hard on this one. It's pretty incredible. We had the neural quad cortex for the longest time on Vaporware Watch, but it actually came out, and we've talked about that several times, that they probably need to get some work done on those things. But this Boss came out just like every other Boss product, comes out in the background of the universe, where it's not released to too much fanfare, but the minute you turn around, there's a very steady and stable group of people talking about it, using it, explaining it, and making videos about it. So I'd say this is one of the future devices here. Probably be around for a while. And to think that Helix is from 2015, right? And it's still around. They're still updating it. It's kind of the RME of Line 6 products. So anyways, these two things, they look cool. They look like they could make your life easier if you're one of those pedal nuts, but I would just use the DSP system. All right. So let me get to this post here. And again, sorry, guitar stuff, sort of. This is important for recording as well. It's a thread at TGP. The problem with IRs, what's the solution? And he said, and this is why I was looking at those products. He says, I was watching a video today comparing the DSM Simplifier Deluxe and the Strymon Iridium. I own both the original Simplifier and the Iridium, so I know the difference. I'm not the first person to recognize that the Simplifier has a more raw or immediate sound. I'm not going to get on this too much, but yeah. Well, nope. Eric Johnson will never let anybody lift the battery claims skepticism down. I don't want to nail anybody right this second about using these weasel words or these goofy terms, because he's not making claims based on that. But again, if we're going to really try and tell the difference between things, we can't use words like raw or immediate, unless you're talking about things you can measure. And those, I don't know what units is raw in, right? While the Iridium sounds a little bit more processed, for lack of a better word, it's almost as if with the Simplifier, you're standing in front of the amp. How much of this was priming? How much of this was knowing that the Iridium had actual DSP inside it, so you're going to think it sounds more processed? Or maybe it does. While with the Iridium, you're listening to a really good recording of an amp. I'm not saying either is objectively better. People seem to enjoy both. I do too, but they're definitely different. And lately I've been wondering if that could ever change. For those reading this, do you think the technology will ever reach a point where IRs can address this? While I love my Iridium and the IRs you can get for it are wonderful, I have to wonder if this kind of recorded amp sound will forever be a characteristic of impulse responses. It's possible that IRs are too realistic. In other words, do they need to sound like a recorded amp? Or could you have an impulse response that sounds more like the raw tone you get from an analog unit like the Simplifier? Is that even possible? Okay, so most of the time when people are using these impulses, they are trying to get the sound of a recorded amp. They want the sound of that cabinet with the microphones that their favorite engineer actually stuck in front of them at the distances they did, at the mix they did probably. And that's the sound. These guys are looking to recreate the sounds that they hear on albums that they love. And that is kind of a weird thing when you're playing live, that you're listening to the sound of a recorded amp that you're playing through instead of the sound of the amp. But these are two different things. So this is kind of a false dichotomy. So I'll read this sentences again. So he says, it's almost as if with the Simplifier, you're standing in front of an amp. Well, with the Iridium, you're listening to a really good recording of an amp. To me, this comes all the way down to what kind of impulses we're using. We're using impulses of what the amp sounds like in a room. I don't know if I want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole, or are you listening to the sound of a recording chain? And not so long ago, remember when I was trying to get back on this page for being banned for actually asking for evidence as usual. That was the thing, do you guys really know how to make that recording chain? You probably don't. And that's what's good about these impulses, because they have that for you. So So either of these devices, and I'm thinking it's going to be easier on the Iridium because with the simplifier, apparently it doesn't have DSP. You probably can't load IRs into it. Maybe you can put IRs into the Iridium. And if you can put this thing, the far field IR, reflection free IR, whatever. It's an interesting thing. We're going to come back to that in a second. And somebody actually says it right here. Jive Turkey. Far field IRs most likely unavailable for the exact speaker and cabinet combination you're used to. So here we go. Well, it's not the sound of a recorded amp. It's the sound of a mic on a specific cabinet that, when combined with all the other aspect of modelers, it becomes the finished guitar sound. Simplifier is a version of the IR modeler setup. You get variable mic positions and stereo output. So, even the simplifier is meant to have the mic sounds or whatever, but let's see. Let's try them on. Can't manipulate IRs. Where is it? So as usual, I put my normal. They say somebody was making a claim that you can't really ever get this sound or whatever. And I always say, if you can measure it, we can find a way to address it, if it even exists. And there's a lot of people on here talking about these reflection-free IRs, the far-field IRs, whatever. There's a guy named Jay Mitchell who seems to sort of be the Ethan Weiner of guitar speaker wisdom. And he gets kicked off of this forum apparently more than I do. Because he's trying to tell the truth, and he is asking for evidence when claims are made. And the moderators at the Gear page don't like that. To some of us, it's important whether or not our beliefs are true, and we'd rather have as many true beliefs and as few false beliefs as we possibly can. So when we find out we're wrong, we're thankful for that. But anyways, this guy, Jay Mitchell, makes these reflection-free IRs, far-field IRs, and he's some kind of author. Let me see. Let me find. I'd like to talk to him more. I think I've only interacted with him a very, very little bit. It says he's the Atomic CLR series designer, which is one of those FRFRs. So the next thing, let's see. So I want to talk about, I don't know why this feels like a conspiracy. Anytime this FFIR or reflection free, whatever comes up, people get banned and they pull posts down. And it's just one of these things. Like, why? It's just like some weirdo. It's like the guys yelling about Monsanto. Some kind of weird conspiracy thing going on. But I was able to find some. So Jay Mitchells are out there. Apparently, like I say, there's some conspiracy to take them down. I don't know. So I'm not going to link to them. But this one right here is from Gigs Up, and it says, attached are some Marshall 4x12 greenback cabs measured at 1 meter and 2 meters, tilting the cabinet back at 5 degrees, 7.5 degrees, and 10 degrees on access to the mic. I've also included 2 AC30 IRs loaded with Celestion Golds. The choice of amp modeler makes a huge difference. I really like the Bell and Howell or Tex heads driven by clean temper, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. But these are a bunch of wave files. And there's a picture here that kind of shows how it's set up. And who knows what he's using for mics. Are these... I don't know the theory behind these far-field IRs or reflection-free IRs all that well. Seems like you're trying to get the sound of an amp in the room. So I'm not really sure why the mic's on the floor, unless maybe it's a PZM or something. That might make some sense. What I can tell you is I tried the Jay Mitchell once, and I was like, it's okay. I don't know if that really sounds like an amp in the room. To me, it kind of does. It's a little bit woofy, like I'd expect from an amp in a room. But this Gigs Up stuff sounded killer. I'm kind of freaking out here because I'm going to put this into my impulse setup. It's really good. So if I were you and you're using impulses, I'd go check this out. Gigs Up, GIGSUP, and just type in like FIR or FFIR or something, and you'll get this, or impulses actually. And give these a try. I don't know if this sounds like an amp in a room. I just like the sound of it. I really like the sound of it. And so also user Alex Knievel, he said, far field IRs ruined me. Everything else sounds phasey or honky. And yes, that's the thing. If you're really listening to an actual multi-mic'd cabinet IR, it's going to sound phasey. That's what it is. That's exactly what makes the sound. So, and I don't like it. I don't like that comb filtered sound. I like, this is actually really cool. So he says, I have to make my own IRs now. I've gone as far as using my XREF reference mic in my listening position to capture a speaker cab, and then ran white noise through each, A-Bing and EQing specific bands along the way until I had a very close match. The real fun is creating something out of EQ that I want to hear. And so I asked him for this, and I said, aside from the two that get posted here all the time, where are you finding these? Are the ones you make available somewhere? And he's got a site. So Alex Knievel, it's bit.ly/ALEXCAB, so Alex Cab. He says, I have 28 in my shared collection now, some of them experimental and odd, some of them suited for Helix and amp models or my own playback systems. There are a few standouts that I love and use them very often, and some that I've never used after making and wonder why I shared them in the first place, but I don't have the nerve to pull them. We've all been there, especially with drum samples. They sound good too, man. I'm putting all these impulses in my impulse collection. I'm gonna add those later today. I think I was tripping out. These sound good, and I don't want more impulses. I don't like dealing with impulses and stuff. But I use the Celestion ones. I love them, and it's kind of pretty much my whole thing. But I really like the sound of these. Kind of really tripping out here. So this is the Alex Cab collection. There's a README file, and I don't know why it's so weird to read this thing. Like I can't word wrap the Dropbox or whatever. But it says, I've painstakingly worked out on these impulse responses for my own personal use and decided to share a bunch of them after getting a few requests. These 28 IRs were made from a pink noise source, stacking EQ plugins, using my ears, and good old deconvolution. Most of them attempt to replicate an amp in the room feel, and some are useful for recording or tweaking. And he's got a pile of them that he talks about. So like he said, 28. I don't know what this means. Like, is this actually recorded from a speaker, or did he actually just create this using pink noise and making an impulse? Or was this, who knows? So I'm asking for some clarity, but I would go grab these if I were you, and I'd grab the Gigs Up one. I'm not so sure about, I'm not so 1,000,000% sure about the Jay Mitchell ones, though I'm sure they make perfect sense. But these two really, these really struck me. Maybe it's just the style of guitar that I want to play, but I was super surprised by these, and I'd like to see these in a commercial library. And in fact, I think I'm going to share these with, give me 2 seconds, sorry. I'm going to share these with my development team because I think we need to talk about this, actually. Sorry about that. That's the nature of this real-time stuff. Sorry about that. And so over at Safe Space, there's a it's probably worth the read if you really want to get into this stuff. Forward Audio in 2019. No, I was searching for some stuff. This is an older thread, but there's a lot in it for what I was looking for at the time. It says, guitar cabinet impulse responses are a great way to get an amazing guitar tone, but do they really sound like the original? I've recorded an example with the real cab and captured 3 IRs with 3 different IR capturing techniques. Can you spot the real setup? And it's a YouTube video, and of course everybody, it wasn't the best recorded thing. He says, for some genres of music, IR-based techniques are fine. This is what do you call them? The sommeliers, or the sommeliers, the wine, professional wine guru guys that can't tell the difference between white and red wine when they're blindfolded. So John Epstein, okay, and we go back and forth. It's not so much a matter of whether you can tell the difference once recorded. The real question is the effect on how you play, and for that, there is no way an IR can get remotely close to using a real speaker in an amp. I totally disagree. It just can't. Computers don't interact with the real world. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Or else you wouldn't be able to use them. You can't get sustain off an IR. Yes, you can. You can't do effects like fading in by shaking a string like Hendrix did in Foxy Lady, or do other less obvious severe tricks. Yes, you can. IRs are soulless. Okay, whatever. Show me a soul. And so somebody says, good grief, you guys. There are a lot of bad IRs out there, but, they work. It's just crazy how these guys, it's still this crazy religion. That's really, when it comes down to guitar players, it's just unreal. But I would take a look at this thread, because it really gets into why this is still going back and forth. This is almost like the old DAW summing thing, where people thought that DAWs sounded different, even though they've made the same. Most of them would make files that actually nulled with each other. This is the level of crazy we're talking here. I'd go check it out when you get a chance. There's a new product here called the Leveler. Pretty sure this is free donationware, and there's no real GUI for it right now. But let me read it to you. It says, LU Leveler is a loudness and dynamics modification plugin compatible with the ITU RBS.1770 specification. And that is, we talked about that, 2 weeks ago, last week? This is, I think it's like an update to the EBU R128. Remember we were talking about how Apple picked, was it minus 16 Lufs or whatever, minus 14? So these are algorithms to get to your Lufs, to your EBU R128. Anyways, it provides a precise reduction of the dynamics and works as transparently as possible to maintain the sound quality even under heavy use of its compressors and limiters. This allows a wide range of applications, such as matching dynamic material produced according to the EBU R128 to a much louder platform, or the automatic leveling of a podcast, or simply increasing or decreasing loudness without changing the dynamic range. Interesting. High-quality true peak limiters avoid exceeding the maximum level. The Leveler plugin was developed for use in an automated environment using the LADSPA API. That's Linux like plugin stuff. A VST version for Windows has been added. Porting it to other platforms and operating systems such as Mac OS is not planned. This is sorry. Let me. I have to. Yeah, you know me. I'm definitely always looking for what's coming next. It is also not planned to add meters to the graphical user interface, but there are very good freely available loudness meters like the Uline loudness meter. So good. So there's a 32 and 64-bit version for VST. No GUI, that's fine. If this thing works, though, this is amazing. So I really want to try this out. I'm hoping you guys get a chance to try this thing out and let me know if it's working for you. I don't know how micro this thing goes, right? I don't know if it seems to be for like matching songs to each other, but I don't know about vocal in a mix. It's something to find out, and I'd like to find out. So that's this thing. Now I want to talk about, I did send in some more bug reports to Line 6 about the Helix. I don't want to tank this product. I know the developers are working on it. There were some bugs about saving and overwriting projects, and we were having a lot of trouble narrowing down what exactly one of my problems was. Where I was it was dropping the USB connector and all this stuff. It turns out that because of another bug that we've talked about before, where the auto engage is toggle instead of actually on or off. And the way I get around that is by plugging a MIDI out back to a MIDI in. And that was causing a feedback loop. And had I listened to the forum and disconnected everything off of my Helix, we probably would have found this a lot quicker. But in my arrogance, I didn't unplug the stuff. I'm like, well, this is obviously a software bug, which again, it is. And the MIDI cable's on there because of another software bug. But had we pulled this off, we would have figured out exactly what the problem was a lot earlier. So I want to say, sorry, but this is why when us tech support guys ask you guys, please set the conditions this way so we only have one variable. This is why. And I broke my own rule. And for that, I need to be punished. And that means I'm probably going to go play pickleball today. That's punishment. But that's really all I got for this week. I'll give you a call when I get a chance. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you next week, hopefully Saturday. Oh, Sunday, we are recording hopefully the next Audio Myths Roundtable with Glenn and Ethan. So hopefully that should be big. I'm going to have to make another makeshift recording studio up the hill. But I know what to expect this time, so let's see what I can get done. I'll see you guys next week.